What if everything you thought was genuine was actually a really good fake? From bacon to even faith, Jesus calls out the difference between real righteousness and performance. In this episode, we're digging into what it means to live a truly authentic faith that's rooted in God, not applause. Let's go beyond the surface together. Here on the Pastor's Potluck Podcast, our goal is to encourage you and maybe in the process, entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. In preparation for this, it reminded me of an episode of Parks and Recreation where Ron Swanson is in a vegan grocery store or something, like one of those hippie grocery stores, and he walks up to a guy standing at a counter, and he's got like one of those like a grill plate or something like that, like a griddle, and he's cooking something, and he goes, "What is this?" And the guy cooking, he goes, "It's vegan bacon." He's like, "Would you like some?" And so Ron Swanson goes, "Yeah, I'll take some." And so he puts out his hand, and then as soon as it touches his hand, he dumps it in the trash. He goes, "Thanks, I'll have another." And the guy's just like kind of looking at him, perplexed. And so he hands him another piece of like this vegan bacon, and he goes, and then dumps it, immediately throws it in the trash again. And he goes, "Thanks, I'll have another." And the guy's like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, it's fake. This is like hypocritical bacon."
Hypocritical bacon.
Yeah, it's not the real thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. How could you eat vegan bacon and think, I'm getting away with this?
Yeah. I feel like, what do they even make it out of? Tofu?
I don't know.
I don't, like, that's where my mind goes. Because I understand, like, turkey bacon.
Yeah.
And turkey sausage. It's not the same flavor. But I don't mind those things. But I'm trying to figure out what vegan, like, is it made out of beans?
Possibly.
That's
I don't know.
Crazy to me.
So Luke has like fake cheese.
Yeah.
Because he's allergic to dairy.
Right.
And so like his cheese, like the ingredients are ridiculous. Because if you're making it from a plant-based product, what plants do you know whenever you heat them up melt and get like stringy, like not like regular cheese does?
I don't.
It doesn't. It doesn't get soft.
Yeah, aloe kind of is like slimy, like, but no, I have no idea. I don't know. It's weird to me.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we're one of those families that have like no food allergies.
I know.
It's nice, but we're always like, I think, we brought food over to your all's house after one day, and we forgot that there was something that we put in it. Remember? We were like, "Oh, this is with coconut milk." But then there was something else that we put in it.
You put the ghee.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because you cooked butter chicken for us.
Yes, he used ghee. And so Luke can have, and we were like, "Oh, man, we tried."
Like we knew it was no dairy, but it's one of those things too. Like he's at youth camp, and so yesterday I made crawfish etouffee because we can't cook shellfish in the house because he's allergic to shellfish. But it's like all the food that we come across, like, you know, just with his food allergies and things like that. I'm glad he's not. It's not like, okay, he can't have bacon or sausage or something to where we're getting to like this. Yeah. This fake meat, like the cheese, like we can get away with, you know.
Yeah, you've got me wanting to research though, like what they make vegan bacon out of.
That does not get me excited about learning what's in it.
I'm just curious, but yeah, it is one of those things. It's like, why are you trying to be bacon when bacon is literally meat? Like it's bacon. Like,
yes.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's for the people that just go they're totally vegan. They don't want any animal product. They don't want any meat product.
Right, I get that, but like, why do you need something to pose as a meat product if you don't want meat? Like,
yeah, if you're going to eat fake meat, you might as well just eat real meat.
Yeah. That's where my brain goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it.
You know, there's even like scientists that are, what they're doing is they're 3D printing meat. They found how to mess around with like the proteins or something like that, and they're 3D printing it. There's even some that are like growing it in like cultures.
What?
Yeah. And it's coming back to where like you can't even tell the difference. Dude, science is crazy right now.
Yeah.
Science is going off the rails. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
If they're 3D printing meat or growing it in petri dishes.
I mean, I just want to know how expensive that is to do. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
let's solve world hunger. Like, if it's not that expensive, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, it's just like anything that's
yeah.
brand new. Obviously, the
probably
cost
really
of it
expensive.
is
yeah,
astronomical.
it's going to be sold for like a lot of money, probably.
Yeah.
No, so hypocritical things.
Yeah. Fakeness.
Fakeness.
We're continuing our discussion in our Upside Down series, how Jesus comes and takes the law and everything that we know and just completely flips it upside down, and calls us to something greater than where we were before. And I've enjoyed this conversation that we've had with Pastor Scott. I'm really excited about what we're going to get into today. And it's been super beneficial. I like these conversations because it helps me out too. It's not just like helping other people out. It's like, hey, the guy who's on here every single week, he doesn't have it figured out as well, and we're learning and growing together. As long as you're taking this information and trying to apply it and do something about it,
Yes.
and not just be entertained whenever we have conversations about vegan cheese or is cereal soup, or like me getting mad at Scott whenever he was didn't want to rename a dessert or whatever. I got so frustrated. I'm like,
know.
bruh, we've done this
I
for
know.
close to 5 years.
I know.
You know the name of the game. Like, it's ridiculous what comes out of this jar. Just play the game.
I know. It's fun.
But I wanted to like first start off like this question, and it kind of threw me off guard whenever I was thinking about it. And maybe you can give us a better understanding of this, because in the last chapter, in Matthew chapter 5, we see Jesus, and in verse 16, he said, "In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father." I'm telling you, the start of the next chapter, Matthew chapter 6, verse 1, it says, "Watch out. Don't do your good deeds publicly to be admired by others, for you will lose the reward from your Father in heaven."
Well, it's that motive. If you saw, like, it was right after, like, let your good deeds shine so your Father in heaven will be glorified, right?
Yeah.
You don't do it to be admired by others.
Yeah.
And so it's that motive behind what you're doing. If you're doing it so that way you can be glorified,
Yeah.
not okay.
Not
Like,
okay.
but if you're doing it because you want God to be glorified and you're glorifying him through what you're doing or through what you're sharing about or that kind of thing, totally different
Yeah.
story. And I think that's like with a lot of things that we've maybe not necessarily talked about here, but talked about in other things that we've been doing, is like motive really matters within what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I would even say in the conversation you guys had last week about loving your enemies and stuff like that, like,
Yeah.
the only way you can do that is through God, right? And the power that comes from him,
Yeah.
not from within yourself. And so if you've done something like that and you want to be like, oh, look at me, I, forgave this person for doing this.
Yeah, I love
but
someone
it's all
today.
About, like, it's all about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then, okay, cool. Like, not really that big of a thing, but like,
Yeah.
it's that motive of why you're doing it and what you're doing that really matters. And so I think that is that is the key difference between those two things.
Yeah.
Is one's to glorify God, one's to glorify you.
Yeah. Why do you think it's so tempting to seek recognition whenever we do something that's good? I mean, is it just like human nature? Because I struggle with it. Because I mean, I think it comes from a lot of the past that I've been through, because I never met standards according to individuals that I've worked for, organizations that I've worked for. It felt like I was never hitting what they thought was a mark that they wanted to see outside of my performance.
Right.
And so like I struggle with that aspect of it because I think for so long I was just walking around going, man, like am I gonna get fired today? Am I why am I not getting promoted for this job that they've applied for? Just whatever, any circumstance it was in, but there was no validation for me that I was doing a good job. And I've had the craziest route to ministry.
Yeah.
It was, I didn't go to seminary school.
Right.
I didn't go to 4 years of Bible college. It's been, it feels like for the last 11 years maybe now, that it's just been a trial by error. Let's figure this out as we go. I'm running into some of that right now because somebody hasn't. I mean, I had a really good candid conversation with you yesterday, but like our church is growing.
Yes.
So how do I think in terms of large scale and all
not
that?
All of us think in that way, but I think a big part of it is our human nature. We want recognition. We want praise. You know what I mean? It's some of that pride, but I think our experience and how we're wired comes into play too, because like I just did, I'm in leadership focus. I'm ordained. I didn't go to seminary, so I'm doing leadership focus to help me with some of the learning and knowledge of some of the theological side and doctrinal side that I didn't necessarily get.
Yeah.
And part of that though is to also help me understand me. And I did all these assessments. And so within that, within the DISC assessment, if anybody's familiar with that, I am a very high people person, and I want to be liked. And I want that type of stuff, but sharing that, like the guy who debriefed with me yesterday, he said, you probably find yourself doing this because you want people to be happy with you, and you want, want to bring people along and this kind of thing. And so he was like, you probably find yourself in these situations. He was like, but with your experience, that makes sense, because like I had not a great childhood. And so a lot of, if my dad and stepmom were happy with me and what I was doing, then things were easier at home.
Yeah.
And so, there came to be a thing where it was like, okay, if I clean this really well and they see this, what I've done, then they'll be happy with me. They'll be pleased with me. So then I, maybe don't have to worry about this. And so I think some of that, like our experience and the way that we're wired, does come into play. Yeah. But I do think a lot of it is that flesh, because we do a lot of things in life that aren't seen and noticed or thanked, right? Yeah. And so when we do something that we're like, this was a good thing, like there's something within us that like we want other people to notice that.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't a struggle, there's obviously scripture where God says, are you trying to please man? Or are you trying to please God? Like there are different moments throughout scripture and throughout the Bible that you can see where people fail at times, is when they're doing it for them or for the opinion of other people, rather than maybe the opinion of God. And I think it's easy to want to please people in a way, or for people to see you as successful or good or all those things. And so there is something that you have to fight against within that, and maybe ask yourself, like, if I'm doing this, if I'm sharing this on social media, is this because I want other people, is it because I'm trying to like show what God is doing, or am I trying to show people what I'm doing? Like, am I trying to, you know, because some people might say, oh, well, I'm trying to motivate other people to see what they could do. That's probably not going to happen from a social media post, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, I don't know, I think that a lot of it is that personal experience and wiring too. And there's probably some of that flesh where we're prideful people. And so we want the glory, right?
Yeah.
Like, we usually want the glory and the thanks, even though we might not all say it. But
yeah, I think a lot of like, I was just thinking, like, one of the things that's one of the love languages, that the way that I give love is through acts of service. And Erica and the kids were out of town. And I cleaned the whole house.
Right.
And she was more excited just to see me than see what I had done.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because she probably, I mean, I'd venture to say quality time is like one of, yeah, exactly. And so it's hard because you're like, man, because I think that, you know, my husband's kind of the same way. Like, when he does something around the house or whatever, like he wants me to thank him. He wants me to notice it. And I don't always notice it or thank him, because I mean, I might notice it. I just might not say the words.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to make an effort, because I know he feels loved when I do that.
Yes.
But it's also one of those things that it's like, well, I did loads of laundry the other day and you didn't say anything.
It's I missed the mark because I was looking for the recognition, and I don't know that I was honoring God by loving her the way that she receives love, with quality time. I was like, hey, let's go through every single room and I could show you exactly what I did. That's not quality time. Right. I missed the mark. Yeah. And that's not honoring God, because although she was appreciative of it, it wasn't the way that God created her to be loved. Yeah. And so it wasn't God honoring, because it wasn't bringing excitement and joy to her. If you
do it and you're like, okay, I want to make sure that everything's clean, so that way when they come home, she doesn't have to worry about cleaning, and we can just spend time together. That's a different thought process behind that, to where you don't need to show her all the things, because that wasn't the reason behind it. You did all the things so that way you could spend time together and she didn't have to worry about that. Yeah. And so it's even just changing our thinking and some of that stuff with those little deeds, or the whole house. Y'all have a pretty decent sized house. So and have pets. So I'm sure it was probably a lot, but
and full time. It wasn't like I was at home the whole week. Right. I had full-time job,
we still
rehearsals,
worked and then went home and did the things instead of just vegging on the couch, which I probably would have done.
I love that, but
yeah, we haven't had the kids for the last couple days. They're with Anthony's brother and our sister-in-law, and it's been we've actually gone on a date, and then we've come home and we've watched TV. We haven't done any of that. Okay, kids are gone, we can really deep clean. We haven't done that. We're just no, let's relax and spend time together. But
yeah. In Scott's notes, I think that this is something that we should spend some time talking about, because it was a good challenge just for me. Is the public you the same as private you?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's probably one of my pet peeves with people, is when I know they're not the same with me, or in certain environments as they are in other places. I feel like with me, I'm not a good faker or liar. So I feel like with me, what you see is what you get, or wherever. But yeah, I think that this is something that we often, people struggle with, and maybe it's not always even public and private. I would say are you the same no matter where you're at? Because I've talked with teens about this before, is often you have these different groups of friends. You might have your church friends here, but then you have your friends who, maybe do a little partying or do a little cussing or do a little whatever. Yeah. And you're completely different around them than what you are with the church friends. Yeah. And you're completely different, maybe even at home with your parents or your family, than you are with any of those groups of friends. And so I think this goes back to that, like the hypocritical aspect of things that we started out with, was that, like, you know, it's not talking about someone who is striving to do something but then falls short, right? Like, so maybe we're striving to be a good Christ follower, but we find ourselves in a situation where we're with friends that maybe do some things that we don't want to do, and we let something slip out of our mouths that, like, we normally, like, that we're trying not to do. That's not necessarily hypocritical, but it's when you intentionally deceive, right? So I'm intentionally this way with these friends, but then I'm trying to deceive my Christian friends at church
Yeah.
to think that I'm a certain person that I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the difference, is like, you know, are you trying to be a person of, I think it goes back to being a person of integrity. Like,
Yeah.
am I the same wherever I am?
Yeah.
Like, am I somebody who people know is consistent, and that, like, okay, with these friends I gossip, but with these friends I think gossip's terrible. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I think there's some intentionality of trying to be something different to different people, that's where the hypocritical stuff comes in. But
It's even really tempted. Like, you see this start to spill over. Jesus addresses this in Matthew 6. And he's talking about being like generous as well.
yes,
And like in your generosity, you see people that get online and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna start a I'm gonna start the GoFundMe because of someone that's in need, and I'm gonna be the first to." I think that's all fine and dandy that you're given to causes that are really making a difference, or maybe helping a family that really needs it, but your name doesn't need to be on because you're making this focus of generosity on you because I did it and I put it out there, and it's about the cause, you know, especially like people give, like whenever they're old and they give to like their alma mater. And like they get buildings named after them, so they're like, okay, yeah, this is why I did that, because I've got a building
like,
named after me
well,
now.
you've probably been to some of the like smaller, older churches, and maybe there's like a tree with leaves, you know what I mean? And each leaf has like a name of someone who gave towards that building or towards like whatever. And I think that's like, I think it's nice when maybe that's done on the back end of like, hey, all these people gave, we want to honor them in this way. That's one thing. But if you're like, yeah, I'm doing it because I want my name on that wall,
or on the bricks.
Yeah, that's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, you said, it says when you give to someone in need, don't do as the hypocrites do, blowing trumpets in the synagogues and streets to call attention to their acts of charity. I tell you the truth, they have received all the reward they will ever get. But when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what the right hand is doing. Give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you. I think it just goes back to, you know, obviously that motive, but I think that, you know, because I just think you said the GoFundMe thing, and I think of like a recent example of that I've seen is like my cousin's really close with somebody, their house burned down, and like those people said, can you help me do this? And that was within like what the post was, they've asked me to help create this for them. Like, can you please? But you always have, what's terrible about certain things like that is that you have the trolls that come along and create a new one, a fake profile and a new one and whatever, and use that story to do something else. And so that's where even like something like that is often better done sometimes in private, with private messages to people. Hey, can you give to this? Because then it's not out there where anybody can see and do. But I think with this, like that idea of public and private, I think about I'm trying to remember, because I feel like this might have been in a recent conversation with you guys, with you and Pastor Scott, but like one of the things that I hated the most when I came on staff here was because I went from being a volunteer to being a staff member.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of people I was close with as a volunteer, as just an attender and a volunteer here, that when I became on staff, got on staff here, they acted so different with me. Like, they didn't act the same.
Yeah.
They wouldn't tell me certain things that they would tell me before. They tried to pretend like they didn't have certain struggles,
Yeah.
you know? And it was like, I know you. Like, I know that.
We've talked about
Yeah, I
that.
was in there like, why are you pretending like you don't cuss? You know, why are you pretending like you don't drink? Like, I know these things. I've been in your house. Like, I have seen the liquor bottles. Like, you know, there's things like that where I'm like, yeah, what? Like, it threw me
Yeah.
so much because I
Yeah.
was like, what is happening? And it was something that, like, I remember cautioning Pastor Jess a little bit because she was in a similar situation. Like, you know, she took over in kids ministry for me. And
Yeah.
when we interviewed her, I let her know, I said, I just want you to know, like, a lot of your relationships are going to change. You won't want them to, but they're going to see you different now.
Yeah.
They're going to see you as a person of authority and a person of, you know, God and like whatever in a different way than what they did before. And they may not tell you certain things. They may not invite you into certain things
Yeah.
like they used to. And that's hard because I went through it. And so I didn't want her to be shocked and surprised like I was,
Yeah.
to where like these people who were close to me, who used to share all these things with me, that suddenly did not want to share any of that with me.
I think also looking at it from the opposite side of the coin as well. Whenever you make a decision to follow Jesus, there's got to be lifestyle changes that happen. And I want it to be an encouragement to those individuals who may have sat there and gone, you know what, like I shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
I remember whenever I made the decision to not drink anymore and asking and praying and begging Jesus to give me the strength to not
Yeah.
do it. Because I knew that I was going to lose a lot of friends. I knew that they weren't going to understand why or like I was doing all of that. But I had to make a decision, and I knew that my life was going to look drastically different 5-6 months down the road when after I had just quit drinking. And nobody understood. Hey man, we're going out. Dude, it's your birthday. I'm like, yeah, I quit drinking a week
Right.
ago. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
A week before your
Yeah.
birthday? And I'm like, dude, I don't know if you understand this, but this has been like a major like crutch for me.
Yeah.
Like it is something that I have always fallen back on. And what I used to go to sleep at night because my thoughts were haunting me.
Yeah.
And I needed to get rid of it because I knew that I was going to die if I didn't get rid of it. And so it was, I had to make a decision because I was doing both.
Yes.
I was drinking and going to church, drinking and going to church, drinking and
Yeah.
going to church, and then sitting in a service saying, God, I need you to take this from me. And then feeling that weight being lifted off of me 7 days before my birthday, which I knew was going to be
Yeah.
a good testing
Yes.
to see if this was like really a good thing. But after that, I knew that I wasn't going to go out with them. I wasn't going to go to the bars. I even
Yeah.
told them like, I'm not even going to go to a restaurant that serves alcohol. Like we'll go hang out at McDonald's if you want to.
Yeah.
We'll go to Wendy's, we'll go to Burger King or whatever. But like
didn't
it
need that
got to that
temptation. Yeah.
point because that was all my mind was thinking on because it was a part of my thought process. Pretty much every waking moment of every day.
Yeah.
And I had to make a decision that I wasn't going to be a hypocrite anymore.
Yes.
I didn't want to do things of this world and say that I was following Jesus.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to go, well, dude, you're not even getting it right anymore. Like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about?
Yeah.
You're talking about this Jesus that's a chain breaker. He's a way maker and all this stuff. And he does all this stuff for people and helps them.
Right.
But you're still being
Yes.
dragged by your feet
yeah.
with these things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that like that is a great example of this concept of the public or the private, or like the person who's one person here but a different person there, but then changing does show like, hey, I'm not that person anymore. Like, hey, I need to be the person who's following Christ everywhere.
Yeah.
Which means with you, like meaning that I can't do this with you any longer.
It really does flip your whole life upside down.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
And it's bizarre. Like, cause I had done the thing where I would go out with my coworkers, after work, we'd leave the restaurant that we just shut down and go to Applebee's and get happy hour drinks, at the bar at Applebee's, or go to the bar or whatever. And I went from that to where I stopped drinking. I would go out with them still, but not drink, to I can't go out with you anymore. Like, but I'm here for you if you need me, to where then it ended up, once they saw, oh, she's serious about this and she is being the person that she says she's being, to where I had multiple people, like they'd come up to get, I still bartended, but it was normally daytime shifts at the restaurant that I worked at. So there was not a lot of alcoholic beverages you're getting at that point. I helped get change for people. I helped, do to-go orders or those types of things, or like gave them grenadine in their Coke or whatever. But so like, it got to where a lot of times they come up and just talk to me during their little breaks in between tables to say, hey, I'm really struggling like about this, or like, hey, my mom's sick. Can you pray for her? Or like, hey, I can't tell you how many people I ended up going and praying with in the little party room that we had close to the bar, because they saw that change or that kind of thing. Yeah. But it's like, but again, like I didn't do that change so that way they could see me do something different. Yeah. I did that change so that way God could be glorified. Yeah. And like that's who was glorified through that, is because it was genuine and real. They were able to know, oh, I can go to her for this. Like, so it's very different. But I think, with the giving and like good deeds in particular, I think most of the time people can see through like a lot of people can see, oh, they're not genuine about that. Like they're just.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that we like passed the buckets around, because like if it was just like a station or something that we have up at the front, not saying that would happen here. Yeah. But I've been in places where they just hold the buckets up at the front whenever it's time to give, and you see people with their hot dog, diggity dog. It's like, they're dancing and.
Well, and I think of things like, sorry, you got me in that because my kids loved that and would like do the little hot dog dance. Anyway, so when people are doing like some kind of fundraiser for their kids or something like that on Facebook, okay, like I really struggle. I hardly ever actually post in the comments. Because like, I don't want somebody getting mad that I gave to this person's kid and not this person's kid, because I'm not on Facebook that much, so I don't see all the things. Yeah. But like, I don't know. I'm weird about stuff like this, and mainly because I'm also weird about like when people thank me in public. I don't like that either. So, but so I typically will like message somebody privately and say, hey, or like if you're giving somebody money on PayPal, they're gonna see it. You don't need to comment on that post, done, or I want this one, or I'm gonna do this. Like, just
that's so funny that people they do that.
Sorry,
done and done.
Yeah,
I'm like, here.
I'm like, they get that PayPal notification, they get that Venmo, like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, and they obviously see it's you if you're passing money in that way. So I'm like, you don't need to double the like notice me thing. I don't know. And I'm not saying that those people, because I want to be well-meaning with this, because there's something going around with someone at the church currently, and I've seen lots of people comment that they're doing this and like whatever, which is really cool. It's really great. And I'm not saying that any of these people have the wrong motive. However, I'm
don't
also
let it get to your head.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, if you're doing it because you want people to see that you gave to that,
Yeah.
that's not right.
Mhm.
But if you're doing it because you genuinely care and whatever, it's fine. But it's like, why do you need to comment if they're already going to see in a different way? Because like the person you're giving to, that's the only person that really needs to know. And even that, they don't necessarily need to know. But if that's the way that you're giving and it shows, they're going to see it already.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need to do the extra posts and do the extra whatever, like where, hey, we gave to this, or hey, like I shared a story with staff in our pastoral care time on Monday about, you know, this couple that's going through some stuff and like how we gave, and I've talked to the kids about praying for them and that kind of thing. I shared that story not because like I wanted to be like, look, we gave and my kids are great, or like,
Yeah.
I shared it because it was a cool moment where God's like working and moving in my kids and in whatever. Like I did it with that motive, but it could also come across like, it could have come across like that. Like, oh, why are you telling us this? Because you want us to know you gave. Like, I think that there comes to be like tricky moments like that, that I think that if there is any question of it, then, you know, you probably don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
or do it a different way.
I think one of the things to also help with like making sure that things are being done for the right reason and to bring glory to God is to pray about it.
Yeah.
Like if God impresses a number or something like that to be generous towards somebody or towards something that we've got going on at the church, take that thing and hold it in your hand and genuinely pray.
Yeah.
Pray over it. God,
Yeah.
you gave me this number.
Yes.
I have it because you've blessed me with it.
Yeah.
Whatever you have in store for it, I want it to be for your glory and your
Yes.
purposes and your will,
Yeah.
and nothing else.
Yeah.
I want people to come to understand and get to know who you are, maybe through this giving,
Yeah.
because I've experienced who you are. I think that that's a great way to kind of like keep our hearts in check, because it's humbling. It really is. It's humbling because you're like, God, you've blessed me with so much and you've impressed something on my heart to go ahead and give.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean,
Yeah.
he gives and takes, right?
Right. And obviously, like, I think there's also those times of, because like in here, like in the text and everything, it's talking about these hypocrites. They make a big deal and a big show about it, right? Like it's flashy. It's a big thing. Everybody's going to know. I think there's something different between that and the, hey, I'll take the leg on the dancer, like for your daughter. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't, sorry. So I think there's a little bit difference in those types of things, than just then saying like, hey, I gave to this, and
Yeah.
because I gave, like this many kids are being fed. Like I think that there's a difference within that, but I think prayer is a very good way for you to kind of test it, like
Yeah.
and test your heart. And also, like, even if say that you want to give and it might be for the wrong motive, if you pray, if you actually spend that time in prayer, God's gonna change your motive. He's probably gonna check you on that,
Yeah.
and you're gonna realize, okay, I'm still gonna give this, but now I'm giving it for the right reason.
I mean, just look at, he wants us to steward it well.
Yeah.
It was like the parable, and those guys are given 3 coins, the talents or whatever, and then they're, one guy goes off and buries it, and then
Yeah.
another guy comes back and multiplies it.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Look, I didn't lose it.
Yeah.
Look what you gave me, and I didn't lose
Right.
it. I didn't squander it away."
Yeah.
And I think that God wants us to be good stewards of those things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sorry, you can go.
No, good. I just thought of something. So my being a good steward, I think, like, is really important, and something we got to teach our kids too. Because our kids ministry, they sponsor a kid with compassion.
Yeah.
His name's Ramadani. right? My kids know his name and they talk about it. And Carter was like, hey, I have like 20 some dollars or something like that saved up. He was like, I want to take all of that and give it to Ramadani.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, Carter, that's a really nice thing to do, but you don't have to give all of your money if you don't want. And he was like, but aren't we supposed to give? And I was like, yes, absolutely. You are supposed to give. You are supposed to be generous. I said, but God doesn't always call us to give everything. And I said, why do you want to give everything? And he was like, well, because I have it and it would be cool to give that much. And I was like, well, I said, that is, but it's also cool to give like $5. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, my kids, so it was surprising to me for this to come from Carter. And I'll give another story to explain why. Because I was trying to explain to him that, like, there is a difference between, like, you can give some, you can save some, and you can spend some.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain that concept to him. Like, mommy and daddy don't give all our money to the church. We give a decent amount, but we don't give all our money. Because if we gave all our money, we wouldn't have money to buy food for you like we're doing today. Yeah. It was while we were at Panera a couple Sundays ago after church. And I was like, we wouldn't have money to put gas in the car to come to church. Like, all these things. And so I was trying to help him understand that concept of you give, save, spend, and budgeting, but without using the word budgeting for a 9-year-old. But so when I was getting ready to go to Ecuador, we went to the bank and I took out money because I needed money for our sitter, like not just like we were going to be paying our sitter. So I went ahead and got out like the amount of money that I knew that we were going to need to pay her, some spending money for her to have, like on top of that while we were gone. Plus we needed cash to take to Ecuador. Yeah. So I had withdrawn like $800, which is a decent amount of money. Yeah. We're leaving and there's a man with a sign on at the end of the road. Right. And Esme's like, Mom, you should give him some money. And I said,
just got a bunch of it.
I said, well, Esme, that's very nice that you're noticing him and that you want to give. However, this money is spoken for right now. Like, and I don't feel like I'm supposed to give this money. And she was like, yeah, just get that money out. And I said, it's a lot of money and it's all together in the little envelope. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm nervous because I'm like, if I get even a 20 out of this, he's going to see all this money. Like, and I don't know. I'm in the car by myself with the kids. And I'm like, I don't think it's smart for me to get out all the money to give him some. Cause she was like, well, you can give him like $500. And I was like, $500 is a lot of money, Esme. And she's like, well, maybe just like $100 then. And I was like, $100 is still very generous. Like, yeah. And Carter goes, yeah, maybe like give him $1. And so those were my two extremes of my kids that day. So when Carter says, I want to give all my money to this, I was like, whoa, why? Yeah. Why do you want to give all your money? Because it kind of showed me like there was a very different character in that moment. However, like a compassion child is something they're familiar with, and they know what it's going to. And so it's a different circumstance, but still it was a difference in character, which made me want to say, like, Carter, why do you want to give that much money? Yeah. Why do you want to do this? Because I was like, this isn't normally, this is the kid who knew I had hundreds of dollars on me and said to give $1 to the guy. Like, so I think that there are also moments like that like, if it's a very different thing than what you would normally do, that's also probably a thing to either like to take a moment to pray about it, because that might be because you have a different motive than what you would normally have. Yeah. I don't know. I think
it's just a good check. Yeah. Pray. Yeah. Pray about it. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like this Listening to Jesus series that we're like, there are steps to confirm like everything. And I think having that peace, having that prompting, that initial prompting of the Holy Spirit, and praying about it, like God's going to give you peace. He's going to make sure that your heart is good. It's just it's it's a great way to spiritual growth and spiritual
Yes.
strengthening as well.
Yeah, and I think that is, that's our reward when we give, right? It's that spiritual development. It's the growth in our faith that happens
Yeah.
when we do it. That should be our motive and our reward. Like, because we are called as Christians, as believers, to give,
Yeah.
right? We're not saying don't be generous. We're saying when you are,
Yeah.
you should probably see what your motive is and do it not for your glory, but for God's.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, like, you'll end up having stories and increased faith. Like, we're able to give at a different level now because we've seen God's faithfulness in the past with the way that we've given. Like, I remember, when I worked at a restaurant and it had tips, right? Like, I would take my 10% out of my tips and I had a different envelope that I kept it in for the whole week.
Yeah.
I would take it out immediately so that way I didn't spend it, because I'm a spender. I like to spend money.
Especially if you got cash.
Yes.
And
And
whenever
you're like,
you work
I
in
can pick another shift up.
yeah,
Like, right?
And
so
service industry, it's
yes,
going to replenish
it's
itself.
like, man, I can work a double tomorrow and make that money back. It's no big deal. But so I had to be very careful about that. But I was also like, not making, when I worked daytime bartending shifts, I didn't make a lot in tips, but I still made that $4 an hour. So it was like, I had to be very careful in that time frame and very intentional to continue to give, even though it might have felt like I didn't really have it.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to pull out $5 when you've made 50. It's another thing to pull out $1 when you've made 10.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. And
Yep.
so it was like, it was a test in those times, because there were times where I was like, I don't really think I have this to give God, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
And I would do it anyway. And then I'd see him bless me for that. And I didn't do it for the blessing, but he increased my faith and showed how, like, I remember during that time when I didn't have much and I still continued to tithe, like, I needed a new car. And I didn't know where the money was going to come from. But, like, a friend that I worked with, she was going to sell me her car for pretty cheap. And I'd been trying to save up for it. And then, like, I moved out of the apartment I was living at. And I was waiting for my damage deposit to come back to me. And I thought, this is where the money's going to come from, right? But I was still short a couple $100s even after that.
Yeah.
So I was trying to pick up extra shifts. But in that, because it was like, well, I can still give money to God, to the church, or I can save this money and put it towards a car.
Yeah.
Like, I had to fight that tension every day. But within that, I not only got my damage deposit back, I also received back a $250 non-refundable pet deposit, which more than paid for the car.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it's in Malachi, right, where God's like, test me on this. It's like the one thing I think in scripture where God actually says you can test him on it, like on his faithfulness to give you what you need if you give what he's asked for. And I remember, though, because of like moments like that, it strengthened my faith to be like, you know what, no matter what's going on, I'm still going to give.
Yeah.
Because God's already given me so much.
Yeah.
But it's in that like he gave me a stronger faith in giving through the way that he's come through and through my faithfulness. But that's, again, because of him. It's not because of me. Like, it's because of him and who he is. So it develops your faith in so many different ways. And so when it's like when Pastor Scott shared in this sermon about it's for your spiritual development, it's a huge reward.
Yeah.
Because I also have faith in like so many other areas because of the ways that I have seen him come through in this type of thing.
Yeah.
And even in the moments where it doesn't happen, like, because there are times where it doesn't happen for a while. Like, you have to wait sometimes for what you need. And that's difficult. But then you still see him come through. In the end, it's like, I don't know. It's a cool thing.
So it's just a great way to kind of keep your emotions in check, your heart in check, praying about it. And God's calling us to be real bacon. as opposed to fake bacon. That's a callback to how we start.
No, I got it.
You had this look on your face, and you were like, "What are you talking about, Jared?"
I know. No, sorry, I didn't mean to make the face.
Alrighty.
See, I'm the same. There's no faking it with me.
Yeah.
You see my face.
What is the most bizarre or unexpected compliment you've ever received? You're so tall.
Yeah.
What are you doing different today?
You look much taller on stage.
Is that what somebody said, right? Didn't
Oh,
somebody
yes,
say that?
Yeah. They saw me off the stage and they said,
I thought you were.
you look so much taller on stage. And I'm like, yeah, because you're looking at me on the screen and not me really. And if you looked on the stage, you'd see how much shorter I am than Pastor Jared.
We're like eye level. We're like you and I are eye level if I'm standing on the stage.
I took Eli to the pool to meet up with other teens and my kids the other day.
Yeah.
One day last week, and I'm sitting in the car and I went to like plug in my phone and he goes, "Did you get taller?" Like, it was so funny.
You're like, no,
was like,
I've been done growing since I was 10.
Pretty sure I've been the same forever. No, I was like, I think that it's because I'm sitting up straight and you're like way leaned back in the seat there,
Yeah.
dude. But yeah, no, I don't know that I can say some of the bizarre things that I've heard because, we've talked about my bartending days, so we'll just leave it at that. But yeah.
Yeah, I had some random lady come up to me at the bar just one time, and I don't know if this was just the alcohol talking or something.
Yeah.
She goes, "You have the best color lips I've ever seen on a guy," and I'm like, "What in the world are you talking about? Like, you need to leave, lady. Like, go home. Like, you've had plenty tonight."
Yeah, that's funny. I've been told I have a nice shade of lips too. People are strange. It's fine. I'd say probably things to do with.
It's just people think that they can get away with saying like bizarre stuff and think that, oh, this is great, that they're gonna enjoy this. Like Scott had that one lady that came up was like, "You look really good in that shirt," and he went home and burned it.
I know. Scott's very weird about compliments though too. And there was different verbiage in that compliment that we won't say on here.
I was trying to leave it. But
anyway, well, because that makes him sound like a crazy person when you say it like that. But anyway, no, I don't know. Some people just don't think. I think some people don't think about what they're saying.
Yeah.
When they say it. That's old you, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's like, oh, that's a cute grandbaby. That's not my grandbaby. That's my baby. Anyway. Yeah. No, I've been told I have nice feet before, and that's weird.
Yeah, yeah. I think we just need to end it right here because I don't want to make anybody else feel uncomfortable. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. ChatGPT needs to get their act together, or maybe I just need to proofread these and try to put myself in a position to where if this is something that I would want to talk about or not. But yeah, we hope that you've enjoyed our conversation about being generosity and fake bacon. Just rewind that part. Delete this from your memory.
Maybe you just delete the mystery meat from the podcast.
No, I'm leaving it in there.
You're going to leave it in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay.
But also on social media, if you follow us on Facebook, what I've been doing is I've been posting kind of like a follow-up devotional about the things that we're talking about, just to kind of like remind us, but also to give you some action steps and just some things to pray about. Because we don't want this just to be an entertainment podcast. We want this to be an encouragement to go deeper in your faith, journey with the Lord. And so we hope that you've been enjoying that. And if you just listen through like Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, follow us on Facebook so where you can get these posts to where we're asking people to go a little bit deeper and be a little reminder of what we've talked about. So
That's cool.
hope you enjoy it. See you next time. Dirty old feet. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram. You can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.